You start small, right? And the very first thing is you're so excited to win the smallest of the smallest client. And usually you can win that one because the bigger companies don't put as much effort on the very small client. And then once you get enough small clients, then you start getting credibility to get a medium-sized client, right? Once you get a medium-sized client, and and I think you just have to be in the game for a while.
Welcome to Still City Growth. I'm your host, Bill Ildenfritz. Each week, we'll explore the passions, expertise, and experiences of business owners and founders in the greater Pittsburgh area. Still City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, committed to providing exceptional services to meet all your business needs. Let's dive in. Honored to have my next guest. He has spent over 25 years navigating the complexities of the healthcare technology industry. His career has focused on leading project management teams at companies like McKesson and Kaiser. Now, he is leading his own company, which focuses on offering 340B drug pricing solutions. He's the CEO and founder of Pharma Force. Daniel Dimitri, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
So we start the podcast always with this first question. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Bring it.
All right. What is the number one most important strategy for growing your business?
I think it's anticipation and looking out in the horizon and seeing what's unfolding in front of you and being able to anticipate what those right moves are so that you could, best confront what's coming your way. So that's both in the terms of opportunity, right? Like if you see something like, oh, I really think we should maybe pivot the company this way, or we're really going to grow in this product line, maybe we should add more resources now to be able to take advantage of that growth that's coming. Or it could just be, I see some small problems that we have now, but in 6 months, those things could be really big problems as we grow. I better address them while they're small before they're really going to be stressed out 6 months from now and cause some big problems. So I think anticipation is a big thing, and that's where a leader has to have an intuition and kind of be able to kind of look out to the horizon and assess where they think the opportunities are for their organization, both as far as opportunities to take advantage of something or opportunities to fix things within before they become a problem later on.
I like that insight. Can you give me, for example, something, you don't have to give specific, but some, for example, that happened in your company that you kind of saw it and diagnosed early and fixed the problem?
Yeah, so like we do this all the time as we're constantly growing. We're a fast growing company. We constantly have to look at the horizon and say, okay, where we're at today is our problems today might be small, but they're going to be a lot bigger in the future. And so wherever we had like processes in place to execute internal operations, and we see something that's a little kludgy now, but it's manageable now when we have make something up. 20 clients, totally manageable, but it's a little bit of a kludgy step, but it's totally manageable. That's the thing that's going to give you a lot of problems when you go from 20 clients to 200 clients. So you better address the things that you know yourself. You can look within your organization and like, well, that works. I know it's not the smartest way to do something, but it works. If you're a flat company, sure, it's going to work today and it's going to work 5 years from now. But if you're a growing company, that step that is kind of kludgy and kind of silly and not the most efficient, that's going to be a big problem in a couple of years when you significantly grow.
I agree. How do you get, now, with that said, not so simple. So how do you get the buy-in from your leadership team to do that, to make sure that they see it and just don't do it the easy way?
Well, it's true because everyone's busy and they're like, yeah, if it's not a problem today, why do I have to deal with it? I think it's the thing that you just have to hammer in when you are a growing company. Again, if you're not a growing company, this is where like some small mom and pop shops do the same thing for 30 years and it's totally fine. But if you're a fast growing company, I think there's probably some examples that you could point out to the team to say, hey, look, do you remember when we did not address X? And we knew it was kludgy, we knew it was cumbersome, but we didn't address it. And now we added these 20 clients, and now it was a big problem that we had to address. Let's not go through that pain again. Well, where are the kludgy steps today? And it's goes with the whole premise of continuous improvement, right? Continuously look within your organization. Where are the opportunities to improve? You know what's kludgy. You know what's kind of a silly, burdensome step that takes time, and there's probably a better way to do it. Everybody knows that. So just being real about those things and just say, hey, look, if we're flat company, sure, no problem. But those we're gonna close 20 more clients, and that's gonna become a big issue and a big process issue. So let's address it.
Excellent. So everybody, good, bad, and different. Healthcare. Healthcare is a hot button, obviously, for everybody. Just in general, what's your thoughts on healthcare and like in America today?
Well, it's been good for business, but it's probably our healthcare system is pretty screwed up, for lack of a better word. We pay more than anyone else in any other country. Like I don't know, someone said something like the next 20 Western industrialized countries combined don't pay nearly as much as what we have to pay in healthcare. So it's a very costly burden on our tax system and on individuals. It's the biggest reason people go bankrupt is because of healthcare costs. So we do have to ask ourselves, like, what is wrong? What are we doing here? Um, I've been in healthcare technology for, about 25 years, a long time. So it's been good for business because the laws and the way our healthcare system has to work, you need technical solutions to bridge everything together and glue everything together to be able to execute it. So it's always been good for business, but I'm the first to say, you know, if there's got to be a better process here because there's just way too much money being poured in, and the health outcomes are not like it's not like the United States is 10 times healthier than the next 20 countries. It's actually the opposite. So why are we paying so much and having not the highest standard of health?
Yes, I agree. If you were, I'll tell you what, if you were king for a day, you have any initial thoughts on how you'd fix it or try to fix it or start?
Oh boy. It's so I think like anything, you should go out and see who's doing it best and probably pick different pieces. Unfortunately, you could find models and of better working systems. It's not going to be perfect in any situation, but with the way our politics are, and even if you have a good idea, one side can't let the other side have the good idea, and everybody tears it apart. That I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon. But I know, like for example, Singapore, they did a big assessment. They went all around the world and they said who has the best healthcare models, as they were going to reinvent theirs. And it's easier for them to reinvent because they're a small population on an island, right? We're almost 400 million people and a vast difference. And what was funny is their assessment was whatever we do, don't do it the US way. It's like the worst model. So it's a little bit of a hybrid between private and public, I think, health, where but I have not put a lot of thought onto it to say that I have the answer.
Oh, I definitely threw a tough one at you. I just wondered if you have an initial. I did healthcare. I don't know if me and you talked. I did healthcare for many, many years, nursing home administrator, respiratory therapist. So yes, I know it's very complicated. I just figure I'll give you a shot because if you ask me the same thing, I have no idea because I saw all sides. You're sitting there as an administrator, but you're also sitting there as a patient and a patient's family in healthcare. It is definitely tough.
I used to work for the provider, like the healthcare system, and we used to always say, "Oh, it's the insurance companies that are ruining the world." Then I used to work for the insurance company, and we used to say, when you see that viewpoint, like, "Oh no, it's the healthcare systems and the doctors are over." You know what I mean? Like, it's so complex, and that's why it's a very hard one to solve for.
Yeah, and I do. I think that's one of the key. Your word complex. I think that's a point. It's so complex. So many people. I just think it's tough for sure. Who does? I mean, let me ask you: who does control like drug pricing? Because I know that's a lot of people say. Like, is it the pharmacies? Is it the insurance? Is it manufacturers? Again, or is that a complex question as well?
It's a complex question as well. The whole thing, I mean, there's so many, the drug manufacturer makes a drug and then they need a profit because they have to put tons of research. And I mean, you're talking about a lot of people that are very talented and very highly paid have to do a lot of scientific research to come up with a drug. So, and if they and that they could do all this and try to come up with a drug, and then they could fail, and so it's all lost money. So when they finally get a drug that does hit, they need to make their money on it, right? But then the challenge is there's different pieces along the way that, like, there's a thing called a pharmacy benefit manager, PBM. It's quite often considered an evil term in the healthcare industry. They're kind of like a middleman who brokers the drugs going between yourself and I mean the drug manufacturer making it and what actually ends up in your hands. And so they take a nice big cut of the action that raise the prices. So there's a lot of legislation in each states trying to combat these PBMs. There's a lot of frustration in the healthcare system. It's kind of funny. It's like insurers don't like health systems, and health systems complain about the insurers. But one thing those two parties have in common is they both agree that the PBM is the biggest problem of them all, the pharmacy benefit management. Um, and them playing that middle role slot and controlling the pricing and jacking up the price for everybody. If they could be avoided, I think that could reduce the price of drugs considerably in America.
Yeah, let me ask you this again, and I'll be honest with you, taking a little different twist because I didn't think I was gonna ask many healthcare company questions, but I love it. I love your input and I love your honesty. Um, do you think? And I know you're, like I said, I know you're a company owner. Do you think people should make money in healthcare? But if with that said, of course, I agree. That's really complex still. But
I think we should make money in healthcare.
yeah, yes,
uh, the capitalistic way of life has proven to be quite good. I mean, it's I forget if it was Winston Churchill or someone who said like capitalism is the worst, most inefficient, terrible thing, but there's nothing better out there right now. So I think there's a lot to be had with it. But when it comes to man, when it comes to healthcare, it's kind of I'm on more on the side of if you see someone getting mugged, a police person should not say, "Did you pay your insurance or not?" The police person should just say, "If the house is on fire," the fireman should not say, "Hey, I don't know, that person didn't pay their fire insurance, so I'm going to let it burn down to the ground." No, we help, and then I'm more on the side of if someone is sick, they should be able to get health care, and maybe if we took more of the money out of healthcare, then there might be more focus on just truly doing what's good for the patient. Because without a doubt, I've been in this industry for a long time. People justify services, doctors justify services that don't really need to be there. Like there's a joke. I'm originally from Canada, and they said, when you in Canada, they have socialized medicine, and they say, well, when you're sick, the doctor says take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning. But in the U.S., when you say, hey, I'm sick, they say go to the emergency room. We're going to do an MRI, and surgery is next, and you get this $500 million bill. So I think if we took some of the money out of it and really just look at the health of the patient, I think that would be better.
yeah. How about AI? How do you think AI is going to affect healthcare in general over the next several years?
That is big. So our own company is doing a pivot from a software company to an AI company. This is a hot topic. I think every company out in America is probably looking at this, and some are moving, some are being a little more hesitant, and some are kind of panicking a little bit like, oh my God, if I don't move now, it's going to be here. I think it's making change in healthcare systems have been hard. So like even Amazon one day, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he's solving world space and consumerism. And one time he thought he could solve and got the best minds to fix the healthcare system. And that didn't really go anywhere. because it's very complex. But with AI, I think there's opportunity to create an enormous amount of efficiency. I think even today, just like you and I are doing these podcasts, I listen to podcasts all the time, and that's why I like to do them too. Is just to for whoever wants to listen to me to give back, because I listened to so many other CEOs before me, and I still do. That they're the world is changing in that you could I know there's a lot of junk online, but there's also a lot of really good information. And we're starting to people are starting to sift out the junk from the good information. And it's going to be the same thing with the AI. The AI is going to create some intelligence that we can trust and go to for advice that hopefully it's not going to be like tainted with an algorithm saying, "Hey, I need to pay my boat bill." So you probably justify sending the patient getting another MRI, which they don't really need. If the AI is just truly objective, hey, I'm not trying to move up in social statuses, et cetera. But from what you told me, this is what I think you really need. And that's just an honest, objective opinion. I think that could be quite helpful.
Yes. Do you think one day we'll be trusting AI versus doctors, like to prescribe meds and diagnose, or you think there's always going to be definitely a doctor needs to be there and part of it and decide ultimately?
I think we're going to get there. Without a doubt, I think we're going to get there. Could be wrong. You're just asking me what I think. But the thing with AI is the amount of intelligence, like especially we have a shortage of general practitioners because everybody wants to become a specialist because that's where the money is. So there's less general practitioners. But what does a general practitioner do, right? If you go see, right, it's just check some basic heartbeats, ask some basic questions, etc. And if you need to see a specialist, you go see a specialist. So I think AI is going to be great for like a general practitioner. But the one thing, like you ever like, and I didn't come up with this. I think it was Bill Gurley. He's a famous VC guy or, on a podcast, but someone I can't remember who, so I don't want to take credit for it. But he said, like, look, take a look. You ever go to like the San Francisco airport and you could get a machine to make you a coffee and it's really cool. They'll get the cup out and then froth the milk and then pour it in and you get to see all the arms doing all this stuff. And then it'll give you that cup of food or a bowl of soup or the coffee or whatever you ordered that it made right there. But it always jams up because it's really smart. They could do these things, but it doesn't have these fingers that could do these very fine things that took billions of years as us humans to be able to do these very intricate things. So there might be a combination where it's a pure intelligence, uh, oh, you're telling me this information. I checked the universe of data and here's the answer. That's always going to be there, but there's probably going to take a lot longer for AI to get to this fine motor skills that might need to do things like surgery, et cetera, within your body.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. What's one thing you would love for patients to understand about healthcare or about pharmacy or medications? What's one thing you wish patients would understand?
Uh, Maybe it's just for fun to realize that there's so many kickbacks that go on that you don't even know from your financial transactions. So you just get the prescription, you have your insurance card, you go to your local pharmacy, and the pharmacist says, "Oh," and types in your information and says, "Please give me your $5 copay, and I'll give you this drug." But you don't realize on the back end that the insurance company has to, put some money up, that the drug manufacturer gives like a kickback to the whoever prescribed the drug for picking that drug, and that the pharmacy benefit manager, the PBM, jacks up the prices so that they can keep rebates, and that the government does a thing called a 340B discount on that drug that the health system can get later. So like the whole transaction piece that happens behind the scenes is like a labyrinth of of shifting money, and it's not perfect and it's not totally compliant, and it jacks up the price ultimately.
Right, right. What's one thing in healthcare you are willing to die on? Like, what's one thing you're like, hey, I really wish we would change, or I really wish we would do this, or what's like one healthcare issue that's really important to you? personally?
Personally, I guess it goes back, Bill, to what you originally brought up is if we could maybe get the money out of healthcare and healthcare just being about healthcare. So healthcare is just like the fireman or the policeman, that it doesn't matter. Someone's sick, go get their help. Um, and if we could get to a different model where we're not incentivized to do these elaborate operations and MRI scans, et cetera, as much as to do holistic, what is wrong with the patient, what might they really need, like as far as like mental health or uh, change of lifestyle, get some exercise. Like in today's world, unfortunately, everything's a drug. Oh, you got this, take this drug. Oh, you got that, take that drug. Oh, you got this problem, just instead of like really getting down to the human being or what does the human being need. Otherwise, you're just treating symptoms and like little fires. And I think all the drugs that we're all taking is making us more sick, and it's not really curing the patient. So it's that that might be it. Just trying to get as many drugs out of our bodies and trying to holistically address, do the hard work, not just try to take a pill and it's over. Try to do the hard work to yourself, whether it has to be exercise or meditation or yoga, whatever it is, or changing your lifestyle, getting out of a bad relationship, whatever it is, like that's what you need to do.
I love it. And I want to just tell you honestly, I appreciate your honest comments. I mean, I think you could be just to me personally, I'm very impressed with your honesty. So thank you for doing that. But let me change the subject a little bit here. What is one challenge our listener community help you solve?
How quickly is the adoption of AI going on out there? The percentage of the people that are out there listening, what percentage is actually using AI? Like we're a company that very recently we started pivoting towards AI and moving a lot of our development towards AI, just like super recently. And are we too far ahead of the game? Where sometimes you could be too early and that fails, or are we behind the game? Be curious to know, like from your audience, what percent actually use AI on a regular basis.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure to highlight that on a question for LinkedIn and hopefully get you some answers for sure. I think that's a great question. It's a great question. Where do you see yourself personally in 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. So we're owned by a private equity company, and we sold to them end of 2023. I still own a healthy percentage of the company, but they own the majority. And usually private equity companies, whenever you they need to change, like they need to flip the asset every 3 to 5 years. So probably within a window, we'll probably do another sale, and it'll probably go to another private equity company. Like that's just what they do. So that's probably going to keep me busy at some point. But we have a vision here at Pharma Force, and I'd really like to complete that vision of an integrated pharmacy platform. Right now, the majority of our business comes from one niche of pharmacy. It's called 340B. Again, and that's that back end stuff that happens on the back end that no one ever sees or knows about, but it's like huge within healthcare. And I'd like to see the next 3 to 5 years, the rest of our vision of the other platforms all integrated together working. And then otherwise, personally, I have a daughter. She's almost 16 years old. So I've got 3, maybe 4 years left of her in the house. So just maximizing as many opportunities as I can to be with her and bond with her and do fun stuff and great memories together before she runs off to the next journey of her life.
Yeah. I have a 15-year-old, so I feel you for sure. I was just talking to her over the weekend, just a little conversation about college, a little bit. And they, of course, want to grow up. And I want to keep my, 15-year-old more to be 2 or 3, but I also want her to have her independence and everything else. But I agree with you. I cherish those moments. She just came off a track season. I was make sure I was there every time just to see her because I know those days are getting numbers for sure. So from father to father, I feel you for sure. The good parts and the bad parts for sure. So, first half of the show, we learned uh, from you. Let's learn a little bit more about you. We started this, but let's start learn more about you. Take me back in time when you were younger. Did you know you'd be running and growing a company now?
Yes. I don't know why, but I always knew I would be a successful businessman, even from a very young age. They used to laugh about the fact that I used to love Richie Rich, the cartoon. Remember the cartoon Richie Rich? You were about the same age, so go way back. And I thought Richie Rich was the coolest thing, right?
I did too.
And I always just knew that one day I would be a business owner and successful in that way. And I think you probably need to know it for it to come and materialize, anyways.
Yes, no. I remember Alex P. Keaton, Family Ties.
Yes, you thought it was your guy.
Yeah, that was kind of my guy. You know what I mean? So I felt the exact same way. And my family would laugh at me all the time. Like, oh my gosh, yes, you. Yeah, So Richie Rich and Alex P. Keaton, honestly,
The influence that these shows had on us.
yes, yes. So I guess I'm good and some bad, but I agree with you. It's just funny you said that. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to your, from your team? Please feel free to do it. Anybody who, on your team, your business, you have to say thanks to or whatever.
The whole team. One thing that when you're younger, your ego is quite big, and you think you're a hot shot, and you know everything, and you make a lot of mistakes, and you don't go nearly as far. When they say there's like an old African proverb or something like that says like if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go with a team. And so I don't want to say one specific person because really what it is, and I think this is the role of a good leader is can you get a lot of people working together in a symbiotic way? And because when that happens, beautiful things can happen. And that's why culture is like the most important thing that I've learned over the years of creating a good culture in your company, because that makes people work together. And that's ultimately the biggest thing. So I could have accomplished nothing unless there were so many people working with me and solving things with me and creating things on their own that I wasn't even involved with, et cetera, et cetera. That's the role of leaders to get everyone working together and empowering them so that they can be successful for the good of the whole.
Mm-hmm. No, it's excellent advice. Tell me, we kind of skipped over this. Tell me a little bit about your company, and I know the 340B. So tell me a little bit about your company. What do you do? And we even talked about some of the problems in healthcare. How does your company help with some of these problems?
Yeah, so we're a pharmacy solutions provider, and what we do is, I mean, if you imagine there's a pharmacy, and in order for that pharmacy to run, to know like how much should bills insurance pay, how much copay, do we need more drugs on the shelf, and all the reconciliation between the pharmacy and the drug manufacturer and the wholesaler who delivers the drugs to you, like all of that stuff needs computer systems to make run. And our company started in the 340, like if you can imagine, like there's a lot of different lanes there, right? We started in what's called the 340B lane of pharmacy, which is that back end financial stuff that 99% of the people on this earth have no idea occur, but it's where the government says, oh, okay, that bill went to a hospital that qualified for these 340B discounts. So Bill had to pay full price for the drug, but the health system, the doctors that prescribed it, that hospital should get a discount for making all that happen, and they get to buy that drug back at a severe, like a big discount, et cetera. So all that is like heavy government compliance. So you have to take all the drug transactions, run it through our rules engine, and determine what qualified for a 340 discount versus not. And then we have to do all the inventory management, say, oh, now you're low on the shelf with this drug. We need to reorder that drug before you run out, and do all the ordering and replenishing, et cetera. So that was like our first niche, but now we've expanded to do the end-to-end pharmacy solution, from the computer system that the pharmacy has to type in, hey, I'm seeing Bill today, and let me put his insurance information in here, to the pharmacy benefit management system, which we are too. And I know I said that's an evil thing in healthcare, but like we're doing it a different model that's not jacking up the price So we're kind of like a disruptor in the field, and the big three PBMs would like to kill us if they can. But like, so we're really doing that whole ecosystem of solutions so that a pharmacy and a hospital can treat the bills of the world.
Excellent. What makes you different? What's your 30 seconds, elevator speech? What makes you different than others?
I think like so we're considered a disruptor, and we have come in with a fresh set of like ideas on how to orchestrate the platform to execute the job. And even now we're moving to AI. So it's we're doing the same thing what everyone else is doing, but we're doing it better, smarter, less expensive, and more effectively. And I think really what it is now is with us integrating what used to be like three separate companies, we're we now have all three of those things, and we're making one integrated platform that we feel is where 1 + 1 is equal to 3. By themselves, they're not as powerful, but when you integrate all three of them and they're talking to each other, it's like 1 + 1 is equal to 3, and we're adding more value than our competition.
Like it. What makes you most proud about your company?
The people, I think having high standards of integrity, one thing is you probably also experience, Bill, as you go through this, people will justify real immoral actions. I don't know what else to say. And it's just dirty, and they just justify it to themselves and say it's right for money or for whatever that they want to do. Um, and I think from the start, we said we're going to be a good upfront company and do what's morally right to for us, our employees, and our customers, and do things the right way. And so we could all go home and feel good about ourselves and sleep well and let things work out the way they are. But we're not going to do some of the other tactics or some of the other like price gouging and other activities that quite often happen in business.
Yes. What you talked a little about your leadership style, and just as a person who's been a leader for most of my life, I admire some of the things you said. Tell me a little bit about your leadership style.
Well, I think you learn of I have not always been the same leader, right? Like when I was much younger, I was a knucklehead, and you thought like the vision of a CEO is what you saw in like in a movie with a boardroom and like that is so not how it really works. And so over the decades, and hopefully wherever I am today, 10 years from now, hopefully I'll look back to where I am today and I'll be embarrassed about who I am today, right? Because I've evolved. But I think the key is, for me is I try to create a great culture. And if you create a great culture where everyone's comfortable talking, challenging in a respectful way, but really looking to see what is the best idea, what's the best approach, and we all kind of work off of each other and have fun doing so is is what I try to create best that I can. It's that culture and that working environment and having a little fun. It's almost like I feel like we're just playing a game. It's like we're a sports team and we're just playing. And the problem it is part of the game. We're going to always have problems, and now let's see how do we just get together and put our minds together and solve it together and then move forward.
I do want to compliment you about just growing your company, because as a business broker, I have private equities, calling me about different companies my whole career. It's not easy to be bought by a private equity. They're, most of them in general are very strict. Nothing good or bad, they'll say, but they're very strict, and they look for margins, and they look, like you said, to make a profit after 3 to 5 years, and they're moving on. So, how did you? I mean, I was thinking about this during our call. I mean, how did you grow your company from, startup to being bought by private equity? That's pretty darn impressive.
Uh, yeah, you start small, right? And the very first thing is you're so excited to win the smallest of the smallest client, and usually you can win that one because the bigger companies don't put as much effort on the very small client. And then once you get enough small clients, then you start getting credibility to get a medium-sized client, right? Once you get a medium-sized client, and and I think you just have to be in the game for a while. I think we were a company for 7 or 8 years before we sold to private equity. And so there's I think people overestimate what they could do in a small amount of time, but underestimate what they could do in a long amount of time. So if you pick anything and you stick with it and you give it 7, 8 years and you're able to survive and just, you know, run lean at the beginning because you're not making a lot of money. So just run lean and then eventually it just gets bigger and bigger, and bigger. And then one point it's like a big snowball that's just going downhill and really, really moving well for you.
Yeah. I like that. And first of all, 7 to 8 years still to be bought by private equity is pretty darn impressive. So you should definitely be proud. But if I am, let's say I am driving my car, listening to this podcast, and maybe that's the point. I'm only getting these small contracts. What would you tell that business owner? What would you say?
Fantastic. Congrats. You're winning contracts, right? I mean, like a lot of people don't even win any deals. If that's your niche, win all the small ones you possibly can. I used to always say to our sales team and to our company, I love the small deals. They add up quickly, just like my wife's credit card, right? It's $5 here, and then the next thing you know, at the end of the month, it's a huge bill. And the great thing about a lot of small deals is you know, Bill, if one customer does decide to leave you, it's such a small piece of your business. When you only have like 4 big clients, one client leaves you, that's a massive disruption to your revenue flow and your ability to pay all your employees, et cetera. So small deals are great. Just, get those as much as you can. And when you can't get that, then go ahead, get a medium-sized deal, right? And when you can't get that, go ahead and get a large-sized deal. But love the small deals.
Yeah, and I'm sure the private equity asks you that. I mean, one of the first questions I get from buyers is, "Do you have any big? Does the seller have any big clients?" Because that's actually a red flag. Like you just said, you lose that, you can lose all the company's value. So, I would definitely agree with you. If you're a little business owners driving and you're getting small deals, that's not a bad thing at all. Keep doing it. Keep doing it well. Keep improving, increase customer service, and you'll work your way up. But having a bunch of small deals is not a bad thing, especially if you sell your company down the road. It's a great thing.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this question. If you can go back in time 7 or 8 years ago and meet yourself the day before you found your company, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, boy. I think it was the lady who made Spanx said, and she probably got it from someone else, was like, thank God I did not know what I did not know. Like, had I known how hard it was going to be, I probably would have said I'll never start it. Right. And so ignorance is actually good. So I would probably go back to myself 7, 8 years ago and lie to me and say, it's really not that hard. Just keep going. So that I would have kept going because again, had you known how hard it was going to be and how many things you have to overcome, uh, I mean, there's a reason why, I don't know, Bill, if you know the percentage, but I know it's something really high that 90+% of every new business is not around after 5 years, right?
Right. Yes. It's very hard. And then pass on generation to generation. It does. You're right. It gets very, very hard for sure. It's interesting you said that because I was talking to another gentleman. He's going to be on my podcast here in a few weeks or whatever. And we were just on the call. He's like, "Hey, tell me a couple of questions," and I actually gave him, like, "Oh, I ask this question occasionally." And he's like, "Oh no." I'm like, "What do you mean, oh no?" He said, "Should I really be honest?" And I said, "Yeah, be honest." He's like, "I may say I would have never started my company." I feel you as a business owner. It's tough. It's tough for sure. So it's interesting you had a similar answer. So we talked a little about this a little bit, but passions. What do you do outside your work? What do you do in your free time?
I got into surfing about 2 years ago. When I turned 50, it was one of the things I've always wanted to learn how to do was surf. And I said, well, it's now or never. And I love it. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard to get going. No different than starting a business and you look like a fool and you're trying, you think you'll never get it. You'll never get it. And you, just like anything, you slowly get a little better. And I think it's really important to challenge yourself in things that you're not comfortable with to get better. I think it's humbling and that's important. If you just stick to, this kind of nirvana, um, everything I do is just right. I think your ego will start getting in the way, and you'll start losing touch with the reality. Because so doing things that are kind of hard every now and then, that where you really have to learn and start over, and humble yourself. I think it's an important thing. And then eventually when you start getting it, you feel really proud of yourself. And I love to surf now, and I'm a pretty decent surfer.
That is great. Um, I totally agree with you. I'm 55. I started jujitsu about 10 years ago, and Coach, I on a podcast, a gentleman named Coach Jim Bundy was on one of my podcasts earlier, and he's my professor, coach in jujitsu, and he has a very formal belt system. He makes you stand up in front of a lot of people and do all these techniques and all these things. And I will tell you, I get anxious. Like the first couple, I'm a brown belt now, but I start getting anxious and nervous, and I used to hate that. He's like, you know it. I'm like, I used to get, but he's like, no, I think it's really good for adults. He teaches adults and kids, but he's like, I think for adults, it's really good to have that stress and learn and become focused. But his biggest takeaway is exactly what you just said. But then once you achieve it, it's very impressive feeling that you pass that belt test, you learn how to surf, you catch that big wave, and especially as an adult, you're like, this is really nice. This is really cool.
I'm also a jiu-jitsu practitioner. I'm a huge yeah, and I totally respect you. You got a brown belt. That's phenomenal. I peaked at a blue belt. I still do it. I do Muay Thai too. But there are so many lessons in jiu-jitsu, as you know, like when you're in a tough spot. So just like I was saying, like I'm in a tough spot and run a business, you just kind of stay calm, be patient, try different things, don't panic, like all those bad, like you learn, I tell like it has helped me become a better business leader and better at dealing with stress and everything. Those lessons that you learn from rolling and competing in jiu-jitsu is amazing. So I could have brought that one up, it's like surfing, jiu-jitsu, what am I going to say?
Yeah, no, it's great. I actually put a couple posts about LinkedIn about exactly what you said, because it is that calmness has helped me. So I told the jujitsu instructor that it actually helped me. Like I went in to do jujitsu. I went in to get in a little better shape. I went in to, learn to protect myself, my family a little bit more. But honestly, the correlation between business and jujitsu is actually phenomenal. Like, just like you said, the calmness, things aren't going right. Negotiations are getting heated, and be able to take that breath is very helpful for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very good. How about connecting with you? So if the audience wants to connect with you, what's the best ways to connect with you, sir?
Ooh, I don't want audience connecting with me. I appreciate everybody. I do these podcasts. One is it helps just like anything. We're always continuous improvement. So I feel like this is a new form of communication that I could practice and get more comfortable with. And number two is I listen to so many podcasts and learn so much that if someone really wants me to go, like if you want to hear from if I could give back, I should give back, right? And so I appreciate this forum for the opportunity to give back. But I get contacted a lot by people trying to sell me stuff and this, that, and I have to filter it out as much as I can.
But yeah, I understood that for sure. Well, anyways, I want to thank you for all for the time. Thank you for the really honest opinions you gave. And you're right. Well, me and you will both change our answers 5 years on the road, but I do appreciate your honesty. So thanks real much for being on the show.
I've enjoyed it. I appreciate you inviting me. This was a fun conversation.
Good, good. And I want to thank the audience. If you learned something today or laughed, please tell somebody about the podcast. Again, sir, thanks so much for being on the show. And then this has been another exciting episode of Still City Growth. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Still City Growth. Thanks for joining us. For show notes and more, visit stillcitygrowth.live. Still City Growth is proudly sponsored by Murphy Business of Pittsburgh, offering expert guidance in buying, selling, and valuing businesses to help you achieve your goals. Until next time.